I wanted people to rethink what dining is. If there's no plates, there's no utensils, is it still considered dining? So what I wanted to really put into the forefront is for people to be able to identify the different regions of Filipino cuisine. And so I wanted to have certain dishes that were from Luzon, dishes from Visayas, and dishes from Mindanao. And I always wanted it to be Kamayan. Like, I started my first dinner as Kamayan because you're bonding with someone, because you're sharing a new experience together. And in a way, like, have a conversation at the dinner table. At that time, no one was really doing Filipino food. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna use the pop-up platform to introduce Filipino cuisine. This pop-up thing that I've been doing has been giving me so much life. Like, I wake up every day and I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. You know, like, it's not even the prospect of like not working for someone and working for yourself, but it's something that I believe in, and it is something that I'm like, I don't mind spending all my time, you know, like, doing this. So my grandma didn't cook. I know, scandalous. It was mostly my aunt, and also we had our cooks at home. So when I was a kid, since I was an only child and my grandma was the one who raised me, she would send me to the kitchen because she was like, you're too much. I can't handle your energy. Put it somewhere productive, you know? So I would help our cooks, and during that time I would also learn, you know, how to cook certain things, even though I was not thinking that, oh, this is something that I want to do when I grow up. You know, it was just more of like, I enjoy being in the kitchen and I enjoy doing these things. So when I first moved to the United States, that was 2004, and I had just graduated from college. And I realized very early that a lot of the money that I earned is slowly like just going to like all the food that, you know, either going to restaurants or bars or whatever it is. And so I was like, you know what? I need to start saving money. So the best way to do that is just to cook for yourself. And also in a way, like, I was also missing a lot of the flavors of home. And so it was a way for me to like relieve my homesickness. So cooking was sort of like a therapeutic thing for me to do. I felt like New York really gave me that opportunity to explore who I was and what I wanted to do. And so I got more into cooking when I was in New York. So I discovered the whole like underground supper club, I would say, movement. And that just, I don't know, it was just so magical. And I can still remember the first pop-up that I went to, and I was like, this is amazing. All these people don't know each other, yet they're eating together, having fun, and they're connecting. Not just over the food, but just like in real life. So I thought that it was a good platform. I felt like Filipino cuisine is like the melting pot of cuisines. Like, it's like a mutt. You know, we are the original fusion. I hate that word, but so many influences from East and West that it's just what I would describe Filipino cuisine to someone who doesn't necessarily know of Filipino cuisine. So I talked to my friend Noel, who is kind of like my mentor. He's been in the restaurant industry. Like, he's like a serial restaurateur. Like, he's had his restaurants in the 90s, all that stuff. And so he basically was like, well, you know, since you don't have a job, he was like, you can't always like travel. He was like, there's 50 states and there's 52 weeks. So you can travel, you know, for a full year, figure it out. And if you don't like it, New York is always here. I was like, yeah, that's so doable. It's so easy. It's just 50. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so I started like pretty much Marie Kondo my entire like life and be like, okay, all these things, what do I need for that 1 year that I'm going to be, you know, traveling? And then the rest, I was like, I don't really even know if I'm coming back to New York. I used to be very rigid. like in a way that I was like, I'm gonna make my menu first and this is how it's gonna look. Like I used to draw out the dishes, and I've gone into like situations or gotten myself into situations where I'm like, they don't have what I need. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make it easy for myself. And if you don't have that certain ingredient, you can substitute it with other things, and you just have to be flexible. I'm not even gonna make a menu until I see what I have, and then from there, you know, make the menu. And so what I like to do is go to the market, get inspired more than anything. Mushroom sisig has always been kind of like I'd say a signature dish, because I think I remember the first time someone asked me, like, I really want to go to your pop-up, but I can't eat pork for religious reasons. And I'm like, okay, I respect that. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I just started imagining like what textures there are in sisig and how can I recreate those textures if I replaced the main ingredient, which was pork. And I was like, I don't want to serve tofu. I was like, fuck tofu, sorry. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like every time someone is like, oh, I'm a vegetarian or whatever, and it's like a cop-out. Here's tofu because you can't eat meat. You know, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I still want them to enjoy different flavors and textures. So I was like, oh, wood ear mushrooms has that kind of like cartilaginous texture. We'll do that. We'll put in the shiitakes because they have flavor. The oyster mushrooms because they're kind of stringy, you know. So I'm like, it's more of like having an understanding of the dish and being able to translate it using a certain lens. One of the pop-ups that really pulled a string was when I did it in Hawaii, and I did multiple pop-ups in Hawaii. And we had, I think, about 100 people like come to that Kamayan. Like, it was a massive Kamayan. And one of the ladies like came up to me after the dinner and she was crying. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, did I do something wrong? I'm like, why are you crying? Like, was the food that horrible? I'm so sorry, you know? And she ended up like crying because she was like, no, it's not that at all. And she was like, I'm just so happy that, you know, for the longest time, I've never been proud of who I was as my heritage as a Filipina. And she was like, it's just so beautiful to see someone who was Filipina, so proud of who they are and who their heritage is, and bringing it to the forefront and celebrating it versus, you know, being ashamed of it or like not wanting to do that. And she was like, that gives me so much joy. So it was good because I didn't realize like what I was doing and the impact that I had, because in my head, like, I'm just cooking Filipino food, you know, and I'm just showing you love through food. And I didn't realize that it meant so much more to other people than just the food. So it makes me happy. So the book I have is called No Forks Given, mainly because at my dinners there are no forks given, and also I give no forks. It's not a compendium, you know, of like Filipino food. I'm not trying to educate people on what the history and all that stuff. It's basically a memoir / cookbook and a travelogue also, in terms of my journey throughout the 50 states. So I've always wanted to like give back to the people who helped me throughout my journey, and I wanted to honor them. So it has 50 recipes, 51 because DC is there, and then 51 stories to go with it. And just like a little background of like what pop-up dining is, what Kamayan is, and you know, just to give people a little preface. Sorry, this sounds so like cliche, but like, do you know, in a way that know who you are and know what you want to do and not get swayed by other people telling you that this is what it should be done. Because if I had listened to all the other people that was like, No, you can't just do pop-ups on your own. Like, I wouldn't be here now. Know yourself, definitely know yourself, know who you are, and know what you want to share to the world. And have a motivation other than money. If you do what you love, everything will follow. You're staying true to who you are. And if you believe in who you are, other people will too.